To order. Before we get into our invocation and pledge, I would like to remind our viewing audience and the audience that's here tonight in the chambers that the commissioners are separated by plexiglass. We have taken our mask off. We feel like we're protected up here with that. Any interaction with the audience, we will mask up again. And so one of the other items I would like to mention too regarding mask and the virus, and we're going to have a full report on it here in just a little while. But we have been getting inquiries from Johnson City citizens who may be a little confused about the mandatory mask order that was issued by the county mayor, Joe Grandy. He issued that on Monday afternoon and went into effect the next morning. The governor gave the county mayor the authority to do the mandatory mask order. Johnson City is in Washington County, so it applied to us. So I want anybody in Johnson City to know that that order applies to everyone in Johnson City as it does throughout all of Washington County. So there was no need for any additional order coming specifically from the city. So we're under that order. Make sure that we all are following that, and just want to make sure that we have that understanding there. So tonight we are honored to have Pastor Jodie Ihfe from the First United Methodist Church, who will lead our invocation and will be followed by our pledge. So if everyone would stand and remain standing.
Thank you. When Joshua is called to lead the people, God speaks these powerful and encouraging words. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. With these words in mind, let us pray for our leaders and for our gathering this evening. God of grace and mercy, we give you thanks for our city leaders. We are thankful that you have called them to dedicate their lives to serving this community and those who live here. We lift them up to you and ask that you empower them with strength and courage. Give them strength during long days and sleepless nights working for this city, during difficult times and with difficult people, to focus on the job when personal concerns weigh heavy, and to keep going when it feels like no one cares or no one supports them. Give them courage to get up every day and do the work that is required, to make the difficult but necessary decisions for the welfare of the citizens, to ask for help when overwhelmed, overburdened, or overworked, to hope for the best in people, but to prepare for the worst possibilities. Forgive us, Lord, for asking so much of them and offering so little to them. Forgive us, Lord, for forgetting that these are real people behind their titles. Forgive us, Lord, for expecting them to please everyone all the time at any cost. Lord, we are thankful that you hear our confession and offer us forgiveness and grace. May we offer that same forgiveness and grace to one another. Be with all those who have gathered here, throughout this city and all around the world. Bring healing and hope, justice and peace, renewal and redemption in our lives and in all of creation. Surround these your servants with your holy presence, filling them with strength and courage, and reminding them that you, our God, will be with them wherever they go. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor, for your poignant words. Face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Peterson, we will turn it over to you.
First order of business is consideration of the minutes of your meeting held on Thursday, July the 2nd.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Your next order of business is to hear a COVID-19 health update. We have Dr. Kursky and Eric Deaton with us. Eric, come on up and we'll let you give us a valid perspective, and then Dr. Kursky can give us a health department perspective. Thank you, gentlemen, tonight for coming and sharing with us this very important and relevant information as we together as a community try to battle this disease and learn how to live with it.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate being here tonight. My name is Eric Deaton. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Ballot Health. I want to give you an update first for some statistics and then also some modeling that we've been working on. Currently, we have 61 patients in-house as inpatients within our facilities. 14 of those are in the ICU, and then another 8 are on ventilators at this time. So far, there have been 2,385 cases diagnosed across the Appalachian Highland region, 336 as of when I looked earlier today within Washington County. Some of the data I want to show you in the slides, I think they were sent to you electronically. Did you all, hopefully you got those, maybe you did or did not?
I don't think
You
so.
know, okay, my apologies for that.
Yeah, we got those.
Got those? I haven't looked at email all afternoon.
Is that
Okay.
the one that came with the letter?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we
have
thought
lots
it was
of that.
something
Yeah,
separate.
should have had some.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Some modeling that we had done
Yes,
there,
sir.
like something like this
Right.
without my writing on it, so. But what we looked at is, we had 3 different models that ran, kind of low, community spread, a mid, and then a higher. And if you look at those 3, we're actually tracking on the higher risk range right now. We're seeing that we could potentially, within a matter of weeks, be at over 300 cases in-house inside our facilities. That's very disturbing, very alarming for us, because that would start to really overwhelm the system, because not only do we have the COVID patients in-house, but we also have the other patients that we care for on a daily basis. So that's very, very concerning. The doubling is happening quicker than, it was doubling about every week. We were, just so you know, a week ago, we had 27 patients in-house, and today we have 61. So we're doubling, almost tripling now on a weekly basis. So we also have 7 what we call patients under investigation, and that remains about the same. Those are patients that are being diagnosed, been tested, but not yet have a final diagnosis yet. So we have a number of patients that we're looking at on a daily basis. I think so far today, and Dr. Kursky can give you for the Washington County update, but for just the ones we've looked at, we've diagnosed 24 today as of about an hour ago. That's been pretty much the routine. 20 to 30 a day is what we're seeing pretty routinely now happening. Right now we have approximately 100 designated COVID beds across our system. And like I said, we had 61 in-house. We obviously want to continue focusing on social distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing is very important to us. We will continue to make changes in surge plans as we see an increase in cases happening and admissions happening. Right now, we're making some changes where you may have seen where we're relocating some staff from our smaller facilities to our larger tertiary hospitals. This is a temporary measure just for this period. And what that really does is it allows us to care for more patients in our tertiary hospitals. We have more backup there. We can support patients on ventilators better. So we relocate those team members over to our larger facilities. By doing this, over the next week, we should move our available beds from 100 up to 150 beds. After that, phase 2 would be, we would have to start eliminating or stopping elective cases, surgical cases, and so forth, like we did before. At that time, when we did that, we were up to around 300 beds. You may remember also, we opened up 2 COVID hospitals across the region, one in Big Stone Gap and one in Greenville, with facilities that were being underutilized at that time. So again, those are drastic measures. Those are things we don't want to do by stopping elective cases. Although they're elective, they're very meaningful for the patient. And so it's important that we continue to be able to do that. About a week ago, on Monday of this week, seems like longer, this past Monday, we wrote a letter to the mayors in the region asking to look at mandatory masking. And I want to say thank you to Mayor Joe Grandy for enacting the mandatory masking. Before that, the previous Friday, Mayor Venable, Mayor Morrison, Mayor Rusty Barnett from Carter County, Greene County, and Sullivan County all did the same, and we appreciate their leadership in that. We find out the CDC continually says that the best way to stop the spread of coronavirus is really wearing masks and the things we've talked about. From a testing perspective, we've performed about 28,000 tests across the region now. Because of all the people that are being tested, it's taking up to 10 days to get results back. We do have some in-house testing that we have available, but those are primarily for surgical patients or emergent patients, or patients that have to go back to a nursing home for care. We're using those in-house tests there. We're trying to expand our in-house testing, and we're working on bringing in additional equipment to make that happen on a weekly basis. Some people have said we see more positives because we're testing more people. And actually, we are testing more people, but our percentage of positives is starting to go up in what we're testing. I think the county can also see the same thing happening. Early on, we were seeing about 1% or so of the patients that we tested were positive. Now it's over 2%. So that positive rate is going up on a steady basis. I want to mention to you plasma and blood donation. We're in a great need for people who have been COVID positive and recovered to donate plasma to our plasma process that we're using in our facilities, provide that plasma back to the COVID patients. So if I could give a phone number out, I would appreciate that. But if you have been COVID positive in the past and you're recovered from that, we would like for you to potentially donate plasma at Morris Regional Blood Center, and the phone number is 423-408-7500, 423-408-7500. Because we had a lull in the number of positive cases there for a while, we stopped getting donations, so now we're in a need for that again. Another change that's happened recently is our visitation policy. We were allowing one visitor at a time with our patients, and then we continue to do that, but this is one designated visitor. So before, where people could kind of go, different people could go one at a time, now we're designating one visitor to visit the patient while they're in the house. And that really does cut down on the number of people that are entering the facility. That is really to do two things. One is to protect our team members. We probably have over 50 team members out now that are COVID positive. And so that's a concern for us. We continue to see more of our team members that are COVID positive. They can't take care of the patients that we have. And secondly, it protects the patients that are in-house also from acquiring COVID-19. Visiting hours are still from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We still do not allow visitors in our long-term care facilities or in our behavioral health facilities. So I'll end right there and see if you have questions for me or if you would like Dr. Kurski to come at this time.
Let's go ahead before you sit down. Are there any questions for Ballard before Eric sits down?
What's the kind of average age of the patients that y'all have in-house with COVID?
Yeah, the average age is around 60, 61, we're seeing that.
Okay.
We've had patients from pediatric to very elderly in-house.
Is there any rule of thumb? I mean, we hear on one hand, some people are going to get it, they don't even know they have it, it's, very, very light, but then some patients are brought to the hospital. What are the characteristics that make it that harsh on some people versus the ones who don't even know they have it?
I'm going to let Dr. Kurski handle that question. I know that since he's obviously much more qualified to answer that than I am, but I have heard that there may be, the people who are asymptomatic may be as high as 40%. So I don't know if you've heard the same thing from CDC or not, but that's kind of what we're seeing out there. So you could have it. I think the risk is that as a young person, someone who doesn't have symptoms, you have it, but you pass it along to someone who is much more susceptible to having complications. And that's the real fear that we have. And I think about it, I've taken care of each other as a community, and I know that mask wearing is a burden for people. It's not popular, but I think about us as a community. We do this to help love and care for each other is really what we're trying to do.
How are our healthcare providers? We know this is
They're very
tremendous
stressed.
strain.
It's a lot of work. My hat is off to them every day. I'm so appreciative of the people that work in the ER, at the bedside, in our ICUs. They're amazing, and I could not do what they do, but greatly appreciate all that they do every day.
Any other questions?
Eric,
Dr.
I
Kurski?
guess I had one question. In reference to the donations for plasma,
Yes. Uh-huh.
is there any documentation that's required to show that you were COVID positive?
Yeah,
or-
typically, we have that information because
Okay.
they're tested locally, so either from the health department or the testing that we have done, and they would have to be symptomatic or symptom-free, and so we would be tracking all that to make sure it would be safe.
Okay.
So,
I
thank
have
you.
one final one. You said we have 61 in the
That's right.
hospital right now.
Mhm.
In the next 2 weeks, what are the projections? I mean, where might we be?
Well, if we continue doubling, we could be pushing 200.
Okay.
And at that point, we'll have to stop doing elective procedures. And again, as more of our team members if they become sick, it takes them out of being able to care for our patients. So obviously a concern. That's why we're stressing everyone take this seriously.
And you had a cluster over at Sycamore Shoals?
We did at our geropsych unit, and we've seen those in nursing homes and those types of units where patients are confined there. They don't, typically a geropsych patient has a hard time wearing a mask, so it's hard for them to understand some of that, sometimes because of confusion. But we have isolated those patients. We've tested every team member at Sycamore Shoals. We identified some team members that were positive. They obviously are isolated right now, and we've created clean units at Sycamore Shoals to ensure that any new patients coming in are cared for appropriately.
Mayor, I don't have a question, just a comment. I've had a lot of comments about how appreciative the public is with your press conferences and how you've been open with what's going on in the hospital, and just thank you for keeping everybody informed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank
For coming.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm David Kursky. I'm the Medical Director for the Northeast Regional Health Office and the Health Officer for Washington County. So actually, I think Eric kind of stole the show with the data. So really the most important thing, that we can talk about with coronavirus is the outcomes of hospitalizations and deaths. So unfortunately with hospitals, the amount of hospitalizations doubling on a weekly basis, or he said even starting to triple. That's pretty alarming. So I think that the mask mandates couldn't come too soon. So we're happy about that. And in terms of cases every day, we're getting more and more cases. So we're seeing between 50 and 100 cases in the region on a daily basis, starting to tax the public health ability to track all those people down on a daily basis. So, again, that's concerning. People talk about the deaths haven't, caught up and things like that. But with the cases increasing every day, hospitalizations doubling every week, unfortunately, deaths are probably going to be close behind that. So, again, it's, up to us in the community to do everything we can to slow this down, whether it's wearing a mask, social distancing, really doing everything we can. Possibly before too long, we're going to be talking about going back to a different phase of reopening, which has occurred in some parts of the country. So I really think it's important that we do everything we can to try to stay open if we can, but if we have to in a controlled manner, potentially we'll be talking soon about going back to a different phase of reopening where we're safer and to try to prevent some of those cases. So again, really everything we can do, wearing masks, social distancing. We have a lot of things coming up, hard decisions to make. So school reopening, I know all of our schools in the region are trying to come up with plans to safely reopen, but with the cases going up every day, it's going to be a hard decision for parents and for teachers and for school administrators. We would like to see kids in school. Everybody would like to see that, but the decision on whether that's going to be safe, I think, may not come until right up, the day before school opens. So we'll have to see where the public health data and the political debate goes on that up until the time of opening. We certainly are trying to support schools in every way we can, the Department of Health, in terms of doing that safely. I guess I'll stop there and see if there's questions.
Contact tracing, with cases going up, the capacity of the health department to do that, what are y'all doing to, be able to ramp up, that piece of the work?
Yeah, so we doubled since last week our number of contact tracers, but just as we doubled, our cases have been going up, so everyone's still as busy as they were, a week or two ago, unfortunately. So we are recruiting people. We have some volunteers from ETSU that are going to be helping us out. We're looking at temporary workers to help with that. But really, in the absence of a vaccine, the two things that are keeping coronavirus or working in coronavirus under control are, measures in the public, whether it's, stay at home or then, phased reopening and now mask mandates. And then the other thing is contact tracing. So finding every case, figuring out who their contacts are and make sure they're in quarantine to prevent spread to the public.
Doctor, with your contact tracing, are y'all seeing that those who are contracting it are coming back from out-of-state trips? Is that the majority of it, or is it just community spread, or what would you say?
Yeah, so it's really kind of third. So about a third of our cases, last time we looked, had traveled both out-of-state and in-state to some of the hot spots around the state. We also see a lot of people that have known close contact, whether at work, things like that. And then a third where we don't really see anything where it's community spread. So we have had cases pretty much everywhere. One of the things I've been saying is, it may not be everywhere yet, but it could be anywhere. So anytime you go into any public space, someone could be there with coronavirus, whether unfortunately it's at graduation, whether it's in the grocery store, whether it's, we had the Bristol Motor Speedway race last night. Any place you go in the public, someone there could have coronavirus. So I just recommend that people think about that. Wear the mask. And again, the mask wearing is to prevent other people from getting it if you have it. So we are seeing lots of people that have been in the public either the couple days before they have symptoms, and that's when they can spread it asymptomatically, so they wouldn't know it. Again, that's important. If they're wearing a mask at that time, they won't spread it. And then, like Mr. Deaton said, asymptomatic spread, so people that never have symptoms but test positive that can spread it without knowing it. So all of us could be currently infected, not know it, so it's important for us to wear a mask.
Dr. Kersey, could you give a little bit more information on masks? I had a call just before I came down here from a construction worker who's very upset that he's going to have to wear a mask. But talk about the guidelines of when you need to wear a mask and where it's okay not to wear it.
Yeah, so the recommendation is in inside spaces when you can't maintain social distancing, for sure, but probably in inside spaces when there's uncontrolled, whether at the grocery store and public places where you don't know if someone's going to come close to you or not. Outside when you can't maintain social distance, so if you're sitting in a crowd watching a Little League game or something like that. If you're outside exercising and you're maintaining lots of distance from people, don't have to wear it. Like a construction worker that's working by themselves, off in the corner of the yard, doesn't have to wear one. So, yeah, really just outside when social distancing can't be maintained.
In your
Probably
car?
most of the time indoors.
In your car by yourself?
Don't need to wear it in the car. Yeah.
And you may not have this type of information, but the particle size of the coronavirus in comparison to the type of mask you're wearing or a cloth mask, I've read some stuff to where it says, these masks can prevent it from going out, but then of course some people seem to think that they won't. So do you know any data or information in that respect?
Yeah, so really any kind of cloth mask is going to help some. I'm only wearing the medical mask. I actually brought my cloth mask, but I'm wearing the medical mask because it just came straight from the office. Medical mask also probably protects a little bit better from droplets coming on you. So if you think of a healthcare worker putting a tongue depressor in someone's mouth and they cough on you, the medical mask is a little bit more water resistant or whatever to keep particles out. But really any cloth mask is gonna help you from spreading droplets out into the air.
What's your advice to families where, the families are out working and then they go home? So we don't know who they've come in contact with or, anything like that. So what's your advice in the home?
You mean just on a daily basis when you
Right.
come home?
Right.
So, just routine things, wash your hands when you come in. I know a lot of healthcare workers, they come home because they've been probably exposed to it all day, and they'll change their clothes, put them in the washer, take a shower and things like that. Probably not necessarily necessary if you're just out in public, not around people in real close contact, but definitely wash your hands, just do common sense things when you come home and around your family. Certainly if you're visiting family you don't live with, especially elderly people, we recommend trying to maintain some social distance if you don't, and wear a mask around elderly, whether it's in a nursing home or just at their house. Just be extra careful around older citizens.
And I'm sure you're still recommending for people who are at higher risk to stay at home as much as they possibly can.
Yes, for sure.
Yep.
So, yeah, we have way more cases now in our region than we did when we did the stay-at-home order. So I think people should just think about that and, the kind of things we're doing then. People should voluntarily try to be safer right now.
Is there information as to the likely duration of a hospitalization? So Mr. Deaton references 61 people being hospitalized. A week from now, are we still going to have the majority of those hospitalized plus whatever gets added on, or is it a 6 or what is the duration
Yeah, I'm
on
not sure.
average?
Do you have data on that?
Yeah, our length of stay average is around 6 to 8 days right now. That can grow greatly depending on the acuity of the patients. We had some patients that are there 40 to 50 days. By the way, we've had 19 deaths so far associated with this, so it can be a long period of time that people are in there, but right now it's about 8 days.
Okay. And then by, I guess, relationship to that, much as I would like to imagine that everyone was wearing a mask a week ago, my experience out in public suggests otherwise. How soon, I do see now a generally high degree of mask wearing. How long, a lot of people will be about 36 hours into wearing masks and asking, can we stop yet? How long until we would begin to see the fruits of that effort? Is that a week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out? When does that start to abate?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can answer that. So mask wearing definitely helps. So there's evidence that wearing a mask, or if everyone wears masks, that it can reduce transmission by up to 80%. So in a situation where not everyone's wearing it, it's going to help for sure, but it's hard to predict, what kind of effect on the curve it's going to have potentially without us doing other measures, like reverting back to a different phase or something like that. Really just the fact that there's so much, we're seeing cases really in every kind of situation you can think of, restaurants, workplaces, schools, already in schools like K through 12 and universities. We're hearing about cases every day in those situations, and they're not even really fully back yet at all. So really from basically every sector of our society, we're hearing about cases every day. So yeah, it's really just important that everyone does their best, from hand washing to wearing a mask to especially staying home if you're sick. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of people do their best. So, when they do get sick, they stay home, but that 2 days before they got sick, they can be transmitting it. So there can be still exposures in the workplace, even if the people did the right thing. We're seeing some people get some harassment, whether through social media or whatever, even though they did the right thing, whether it's a restaurant or an actual person that's being harassed. We've had some school-age kids getting harassed on social media, even though they've done everything,
Harassed
right.
for what?
What's that?
Harassed for what?
Oh, for, whether people know they're positive or think they're positive or say they're positive and they did something that they're not supposed to do. So we are hearing, there's a lot of rumors and people think they know someone's positive, but maybe they're not, or they are actually positive. They're doing the right thing, but people are saying they're not. So I would just be wary about what you hear on social media about cases.
But in respect to schools, is there any talk or thoughts towards staggering the different school systems, reopening to where maybe it would possibly, obviously, when school starts, everybody gets sick anyways from, just common colds and whatnot, but would staggering Sullivan County and Washington County and the city schools every other week or something, but instead of everybody opening the first week of August?
It potentially could be a good idea. I don't really love it that schools and universities are going back right around the same time. So there could be we'll be dealing with a lot of different situations. Some of our schools start a week apart. So I know, for instance, I think, can't remember, Unicoi maybe starts a week after most of the other schools. But so we'll have a little of that, but we are going to be dealing with a lot of different things. All the schools opening, universities, kids coming back from everywhere in the country to our universities. So yeah, we're going to have our hands full in the next month or two, unfortunately.
Dr. Kursky, what would be your guidance on large events? We're getting we continue to get requests to have road races and bicycle races and different types of events like that. What would be your guidance in terms of allowing those types of events at this current time?
Yeah, so I would say, we were discouraging that or not allowing that back when we were in the stay-at-home, when we only had, we're getting 2 or 3 cases a day. Now we're getting 50 to 100 cases a day in our region. So, yeah, I think it's, probably better that we'd not have that kind of large gatherings when there's so much coronavirus going
Yes,
on right now.
Thank you.
So in our region, still growing.
Yeah, so
That's
if you
the
look at the
concern.
curve, I didn't bring any data with me, I apologize, but if you look at the curve, for a long time, we were kind of going up at a kind of slow and steady rate, but now if you look at the curve, it's kind of accelerating and going up quicker. So, like the doubling every week of hospitalizations, we're seeing almost that kind of situation with actually the number of cases.
So by contrast, other parts of the world have sort of, I guess, contained it. It hasn't gone away, but they've
Right.
contained it. Somebody could come back in and presumably, once you get something like this sort of beat back or contained, but you don't have a vaccine and you don't have herd immunity, what's the next step? I mean,
Yeah, it's really to keep those preventive things going, whether it's some of the stuff we're doing in the phases, phase 1, phase 2, the mask wearing, it's really all of that stuff. So, the more that's out there in the community, if you figure every person gives it to, possibly 2 or more other people, that's going to lead to like exponential growth. So, once you get to a point where it's, public health, can't track every case or the hospitals can't take care of everybody, then it just gets where it's going to be harder to control.
Is there any, I don't know what the right word is, mutations, I guess, of it? Or is this different, or is it starting to look different than what was seen in the Northeast or earlier on?
Yeah, I don't know that any, all viruses mutate a little bit. I've not heard that there's been any major mutation in it that's causing this, except for just, reopening and people being in closer contact.
I think, Vice Mayor, to your point, in the future, we certainly get calls about, oh, you're not going to close businesses down again. And of course, that is the last thing anybody wants to do. The key to that is this.
Yeah.
If we just wear a mask and use really good judgment.
Yeah, and, also,
That's the answer.
Yeah, we encourage businesses to follow the Tennessee Pledge and, we encourage people to not go to businesses that aren't practicing safe behaviors like that are outlined in the Tennessee Pledge to be careful, yeah.
Kind of refreshing to see Kroger and CVS and Target and Walmart, making masks mandatory throughout all of their stores throughout the nation. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of leadership is going to be good in our communities, for sure.
Yeah. I agree.
Any other questions, folks? Comments? Well, Dr. Kursky, we know your life has been turned upside down the last 6 months, I'm sure of it. But thank you for the work you do in the health department. We were out last week watching some of the testing get done, and you're doing
yep.
350 to 400 tests a day.
Yeah, our nurses have really been heroic. All our public health nurses and other public health staff have, they've done everything anyone's asked of them, even though it's not really even reasonable to ask that much of them, but they've just done it and not really complained, so.
Please thank them, and thank you for your dedication and doing everything you can do to keep this community safe.
All right, well, we thank you, Mayor, and thank all the other county mayors that have done mask orders or are considering mask orders, yeah.
We'll recognize Mr. Hall here, Andy Hall from Ballard as well. Thank you for the work you're doing. We know.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks a lot.
Guys, thank you. Mayor, your next order of business is the presentation of a proclamation recognizing the 2019-2020 ETSU men's basketball team for their record-setting season. If we could ask Coach Shea and representatives of that championship team to come forward.
Y'all want to come on down here just a little bit? There you go. Well, Coach, your first time in front of the commission. We appreciate y'all coming over, and for the players who've come today, we really appreciate you coming over, and that we can read this proclamation, because ETSU basketball is a pretty major thing here in Johnson City. And when did they start playing at ETSU? 5 years ago? 4?
Coach has been here, this will be
Yeah,
year
Freedom-
six,
I mean, Freedom
5
Hall.
years,
5
5 years
years?
at Freedom Hall. 6 years
years.
at Freedom Hall.
You have, that move to Freedom Hall has brought so much excitement to Johnson City, and when you have sellout crowds the way you're doing right now, it's just amazing. It's good for the city. So anyway, and you may have to help me with some names here. I'm not sure how well I'll do. Whereas the 2019-2020 ETSU University men's basketball team enjoyed a historic season with a program record 30 wins en route to capturing both the Southern Conference regular season and tournament championships, marking the Buccaneers' 11th NCAA tournament appearance. And whereas tremendous sportsmanship, integrity, and character were demonstrated by players Trey Boyd III, Bo Hodges, Davian Williamson, Patrick Good, Jeremy Rodriguez, Damari, Monsanto, Octavian Corley, Isaiah Tisdale, Joe Hewley, Vonnie Patterson, Jordan Coffin, Lucas Gasson, thank you, Charlie Weber, and Ladarius Brewer. And whereas the team was led by the outstanding staff of head coach Steve Forbes, assistant coach Jason Shea, and now head coach Brooks Savage and BJ McKee, Director of Basketball Operations Frank Davis, Director of Basketball Sports Performance Mike Stark, Graduate Assistants Chris Forbes and Zach Bush, and Head Athletic Trainer Brett Lewis. And whereas the Buccaneers became the 4th team in Southern Conference history to reach the 30-win mark, tying the single-season conference record, and were one of just 4 schools this past season to win 30 games. And whereas ETSU ended the season on a 12-game win streak, tied for the 5th longest in the country, and whereas their .882 win percentage was the best in program history and the 6th highest across Division I programs, and whereas the Bucks were among national leaders in several statistical categories, including 8th in scoring margin, 12th in total steals, 15th in turnover margin, 17th in field goal percentages, and 25th in scoring defense and steals per game. And whereas ETSU ranked in the upper third of NCAA Division I programs in total attendance, ranked above several Power 5 programs, including Miami, Oregon State, Stanford, Southern Cal, and Washington State, and ended the season ranked number 26 in the coaches poll and number 27 in the AP poll. And whereas in December, ETSU knocked off the Power 5 school as the Bucks took down LSU in Baton Rouge, marking the third time in the Coach Forbes era that the blue and gold accomplished this feat, and was the Bucks' 17th win all-time against an SEC opponent, and the first over LSU. Whew, I'm exhausted. Wow. Now, therefore, I, Jenny L. Bragg, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim our community's pride in the 2019-2020 ETSU men's varsity basketball team, and commend its players and coaches for the hard work and determination that led them through an outstanding season. So let's have an applause for this wonderful group. Coach, I'm going to hand you the microphone, but I'm going to get you a different thing. That's for you. Going to be, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Brock. It is with great privilege and honor that I accept this proclamation on behalf of ETSU and our men's basketball program. We take great pride in representing the ETSU, the Appalachian region, Johnson City, with great humility, great class, and grit. And I thank you for this, and we'll definitely cherish this and keep it as a commemorative.
The only thing we want you to commit to is that you're going to be back at the end of whenever the next season's going to be, so we can do it again.
Well, that's the goal, to do it every time.
And I'm sure there's some people behind me right here that I know they're at every one of the games that might have a couple of things to say.
Well, I'll start, I guess. I'm just disappointed I didn't get to go watch you play some more. So I know y'all are too. So we need to do that again so we can actually keep going for a little while and win a couple of games in the tournament. So.
And Coach Shea, I'd like to apologize for that comment I made to the officials at the Western Carolina game. I'm sure he heard me.
I'm sure there was a lot of comments
Yeah.
in that game, but thank God for our native son who pulled off a miracle and started to make some shots for us.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, and congratulations to you, Coach Shea, on a much-deserved promotion to the head coach position. And I know you're going to raise the bar from the high standard that it already rests at. And with this group of outstanding young men and student athletes, you guys will continue to bring success to the university and to the city. And, you know, student athletes come to town, and you come here for an education and to play ball and to have a good time playing ball. And I would just like to express to you that it means a whole lot more than that to those of us who live and work here. It has created a sense of excitement and pride in our community that we haven't seen in a long time. And it really sets us apart as a great place to live, work, play, and go to school. And a lot of that is because of the way that you gentlemen carry yourselves, you perform on the court, you perform in the classroom, and we as a community are very appreciative of what you do for our community, in addition to the excitement that you provide to us on the basketball floor. Now, that was a 30-win season last year. I'm sure Coach has got at least 32 games on the schedule this year. So I think the gauntlet has been set, gentlemen, and we look forward to a great season of basketball at Freedom Hall as soon as they'll turn us loose. So thank you.
Thank y'all so much for coming.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Peterson.
Next item on the agenda is recognition of recent police department promotions. So Major Rice, if you could get everyone to come in, please, sir.
Keep coming.
Deputy
coming.
Chief.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You could have a badge printed on your mask.
Commissioners, I would like to take this opportunity to present to you new members of our command staff, and these folks have recently been promoted into new ranks amongst our police department. For continuity's sake, I'm going to introduce Deputy Chief Debbie Botello in her new rank as Deputy Chief to Chief Turner. She has served in Patrol, CID, Watch Commander. She's been the administrative major in her most recent position, and Debbie has an outstanding career and track record here, and she's extremely deserving of this promotion, and we're very grateful for her service and proud to promote her as our first female deputy chief in the history of the organization. So Debbie, on that, I'm going to let you introduce and explain the balance of the promotions, if you would, please. There,
You'll need the microphone there.
Absolutely.
please, ma'am.
It's the only way they can hear it on TV, yeah.
Slide it forward towards the big end. There you go.
Okay, the first one I'll start with is Lieutenant Mike Adams, and he is assigned to Platoon 2 as the lieutenant for Platoon 2. Sorry, one. Thought you wanted to. The next one is Lieutenant Keith Sexton. He's assigned to Platoon 2. And along with him is Captain Daugherty, and he is the watch commander for Platoon 2. Captain Peters, he was placed over as the commander of the CID unit, so he's back there. Major Howe is operations major, and then Brian got my job. He's the administrative major.
We are blessed within our police department to have such quality individuals with a high degree of integrity and extraordinary training. I'm going to pick on Lieutenant Sexton a little bit here. He was the training officer for the last 6 or 8 years, Keith, is that about right?
Pushing 5.
Pushing 5, okay. Through the quality of the people that we hire in the police department and the training that they receive both here in-house and at other locations, we've got a police department that is unequaled anywhere. And I can say that in all honesty and with all respect, as it is justified in me saying that by the fact that one of our biggest challenges in law enforcement with our employees is that the federal and state governments come and keep stealing our employees because we get such high-quality employees with such great training that they're ready to step into a much more in-demand position. So we are truly blessed. This group is very capable of protecting our citizens and keeping us safe and doing it with equity and dignity. And I'm just very appreciative to have the opportunity to work with these folks. So congratulations, gentlemen and ladies. We appreciate what you do, and good luck.
But if other agencies are watching our meeting, this group is not as good as
This
previous
group is not a group you want to hire if you're
You're not as
another
tall,
agency.
is
That's
it?
true.
Well, we would just want to say congratulations on your promotions. I had the good fortune of getting to hear Lieutenant Sexton last week at the Community Roundtable. He did an amazing job talking about the training that our police officers have to go through. I learned so much from you that day, and thank you a lot. You did a fantastic job with a very diverse crowd of people who some knew a lot and others didn't know much of anything, so did a terrific job. We get to see y'all out on the streets a lot, maybe spending a little bit more time than we've wanted to lately, but thank y'all so much again for all your hard work and your commitment and loyalty to the citizens of Johnson City.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Congratulations.
All right, commissioners. It's now time for appointments. The first being, consider 3 appointments to the Health and Educational Facilities Board.
All right, commissioners, Commissioner Calhoun, I see you have your paper down there.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I would point out that 2 of these are going to be 6-year terms and one's a 4-year term.
Okay.
So we'll need to make sure we clarify who's getting what terms.
All right. We have looked these over. We appreciate all the applications that have come in and for the commitments that the applicants have made to the committees they would like to serve on, and then to provide input on other committees they may be interested in as well as backup. So commissioners, do we have a motion for appointment for, let's see, how many are the 6-year?
There's 2, and they have to be reappointments.
Okay, all right, so I will.
Well, no, I'm sorry, the 4-year can't
new.
be the reappointment. Right.
I'll entertain a motion then.
I would make a motion that we reappoint Richard Manahan and William Roller, and that so those would be the 2 6-year appointments.
Okay.
And
You want to
that-
just
I'm sorry.
take those separately, the reappointments, and then go for the new appointments, or we'll do it all at one time?
He sounded like he was on a roll.
I think you will, okay.
Go for
All
number
right.
4.
Then the 4-year appointment would be, and I think that she put this as a request, that Christine Wharton be the 3rd appointment there.
Okay.
Second?
All right, there's a motion, reappointment of Dr. Manahan, Mr. Roller, and a 4-year appointment for Christine Wharton. And there's a second to that. All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Your next order of business is consideration of 4 appointments to the Housing and Community Development Advisory Board.
Someone want to take the lead on this for a motion? We have one seeking reappointment, correct, Mr. Forrester? Okay.
That's correct.
All right, somebody want to make a motion on him for reappointment, and we'll just go ahead and get that one done.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And that's for Mr. Forrester.
This will be
Yes.
reappointment of Mr. Forrester. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Make a motion for Abraham McIntyre.
Okay, we have a motion for a new appointment of Abraham McIntyre. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Can we do Brian? Okay, you want to make that motion?
I don't have my sheet.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We'll share it right here.
Yeah, I think Samuel Bryant is another one that, a move for him for the next position.
Okay. We have a motion for Mr. Samuel Bryan. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any comments, questions? Ms. Jennings?
You say Samuel Bryant?
Mm-hmm.
Who made that motion? I'm sorry.
Dr. Fowler.
Samuel Bryant.
Fourth down on that list.
Does Janet have a chart?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Do you have him?
She's looking, she
I
doesn't
didn't
have a
see it on
chart.
the list. That's why I'm having trouble.
He's not, that name is not in the packet.
Oh, okay. He's on the spreadsheet
from the
that was
packet.
prepared.
Okay.
Okay?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. And one more. Let's see. Okay, we have two that have applied for this as their backup boards. One has already been appointed to another board, Ms. Wharton,
So is Brett Mays.
and so is Brett Mays.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. Carter.
okay, his,
Correct me, didn't Dr. Carter get appointed to the library board last go-around?
He did.
Okay.
he did. Mhm. So we really don't have any others that have applied for this board that's on the list. We can-
Is Stacy Telford applied for this?
Stacy Tedford did apply for this, yes.
As did Bobby Smith. I don't know.
They're not on the list.
They're in the packet.
It's on
They're in the packet, but
it's
they're
on the
not on
packet.
that list.
That's what's made it.
Right. It's kind of hard to keep up with.
Okay, do you want to try to go ahead and make this fourth appointment, or we can make the three appointments that we've just designated and come back after we kind of sort through?
I would make a motion to defer the fourth
The fourth
appointment till
appointment.
the, I guess, what is it, first meeting of August?
Okay,
Is that
all right.
Second?
Do you have a second? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
If I could, Mayor, just to interrupt, for those who are watching from home, we're doing this a little bit differently than we have in the past, in that, in the past, we've made an appointment here and an appointment there and an appointment later and an appointment next month and 2 months from now and 6 months from now. And it didn't allow us to necessarily invite the most complete list of potential applicants to consider them in totality. And so you might end up with one person serving on 2 or 3 boards or committees because they were getting appointed all scattered around the calendar. And so we're doing it a little differently here, doing this in mass, which is a little different for those of us that have done it the old way, in an effort to have a little more transparency on who's serving, who is interested to serve, and make sure we're inviting as many people into that service as we can accommodate.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, we're moving to the Parks and Rec Board. We only have one appointment for that. Do we have a motion for that appointment?
I would make a motion for Adam Welch.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Okay, and we have 2 more seats on the Planning Commission to make tonight. We made the first 2 appointments at our last meeting.
I think one of them, we're still looking for a county person.
That's right, so we'll just have one
So we'll have
appointment
just one
tonight.
appointment tonight.
Make one and defer one, so what you want to do?
Correct.
I move that we defer the county one to a later
Okay.
meeting.
Because we don't even have an applicant
Right.
yet.
Right.
You're right, okay.
All right. Do we need to do that in a motion, Mr. Peterson, if we don't have an applicant?
You don't need to vote to defer.
Okay.
You're just filling positions, however many, and
All
whichever
right.
is still.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one appointment. Is there a motion?
I move for Timber Aldridge.
Second.
Okay. Any other comment? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Our next is the Public Art Committee. They had made a recommendation for Richard Davis, Wendy Day, and Elizabeth Plummer.
I'll make a motion to affirm those recommendations with appointments.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other comment, questions?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the nearly a dozen other people interested in serving that we can't appoint. And don't let not being appointed today keep you from applying in the future. It's just a really crowded field, so.
Well, and to add to that, our next round of appointments will be in December for other boards. So, keep an eye out on the city website and social media for that
And
that period of
we'll
time.
keep these on file as well.
Absolutely.
This has been a very active committee, and the results of their work is seen all over town, and it's very good. We
just
didn't
need to
vote yet.
Yeah, no, we
Ms.
haven't
Jennings.
voted.
Let me get that third name. I apologize.
Elizabeth Plummer.
Okay. Commissioner Hunter's way down there, and it's a little difficult to hear.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. And our last committee is the PBA, Public Building Authority.
For appointments.
We have one reappointment, which is Melissa Thomas.
I would make a motion to reappoint Melissa Thomas.
Okay. Is there a second? All right. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Then we have two other applicants, Dan Tackling and Jim Green. But that's all that's applied for this. Is there a motion?
PBA, I'll make a motion for Mr. Tackling.
Add Mr. Green onto that.
Sure. I'll amend that, or add Mr. Green on there as well.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to add Mr. Tackling and Mr. Green. Any other comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Okay, the only thing we'll come back to then is the county position on the planning commission and, what was the?
Housing and community.
The housing,
development.
yes. Okay, thank you.
And you'll have one more appointment to PBA.
One more?
Yes.
Since we only had.
We had three. That's right.
I was unable to get a hold of the folks that we talked about Monday night,
Okay,
so
very good.
I'll follow up on that.
Thanks. Okay, let's move forward.
This moves us to the consent agenda, and we have, would like to request that you pull item, which is the declaration of certain equipment as surplus. The reason for that request, with the increased spread of the COVID virus, we are re-looking at how we have employees come to work and to disperse to go to job sites. We're trying to limit the number of people per vehicle, and we're looking at perhaps hanging on to some of these water sewer vehicles so that we can keep one person to a truck to go to a job site. In light of the spread of the disease, it's probably in our better interest to spend a little bit more on gas than it is to get employees sick and risk getting a whole crew out of work. So we would ask you to pull that, please.
If we see a 1998 GMC pickup truck out on the road, we'll know this is one of them.
It is just one of several 1998 pickups that we still have on the road. I'm really, really proud of our motor transport folks and some of our construction guys. We've got a number of 15, 20-year-old vehicles. We've got some fire trucks that are almost 20 years old that we maintain them and we get all we can out of them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. All right, so that item, we need a motion to pull that, to remove
Well,
it
or
from the
you
agenda.
do a motion to approve the consent agenda
Well,
with that.
Okay, well, I want to see if anybody wants to
Oh,
pull
yeah,
anything
yeah.
first, yeah. Commissioner Calhoun, do you have any items you'd like to pull?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Commissioner Hunter?
I'd like to pull 6.2.2 just so that we can, I think it's great to see the next phase of the building plan for the school system. And so for people to be aware that that's coming down.
Good, okay. Commissioner Fowler?
None.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
No, ma'am.
And I don't have any either, so we will address 6.2.2.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, this is the bid approval for Southside Elementary School addition of 4 classrooms on the 2nd story. We had the bid opening, had a lot of interest in the project. We had a budget of about 1.7 overall for the project, and when we got the bids, with the competition that we had and the people that were interested in it, the total project budget came in at about 1.6, which is included in your packet, including architectural fees and engineering. The low bidder was J.E. Green. He's the one who originally built Southside. So he took a lot of pride in keeping his pencil very sharp as he was bidding this project in order to get it. And all the bids came in very, very close. And so he's ready to get started. With your approval tonight, we're having a post-construction meeting Monday. And then we will issue a notice to proceed on the 27th of July so that they can get their laydown areas fenced, start moving some things in before school starts. Because construction will actually take place while school is in session. We've been meeting regularly with the principal and with the architect to develop a good laydown plan and also to develop a good schedule to work around students. Most of this is outside up on the 2nd floor, but there will still be some plumbing work and HVAC that'll go through into the 1st floor.
So they're not going to have to move any of the students anywhere. School will be as usual.
Absolutely.
As usual as it can be.
One of the things that we changed is like the drop-off for buses and the parent drop-off to avoid construction zones. And then some of the ways they move through the school will be altered on certain days while they're doing some overhead work. But we've worked all that out.
And so if we're going to be starting here in the next little while, what's the end date on that? When will they actually be able to use?
The project's scheduled to be completed in 9 months. That's the time frame.
Oh, wow.
So because there's no site work and no, grading or anything that goes along with that. So a lot of times you don't run into a lot of, that's where you hit your unexpected expenses and time delays. But 9 months is what's on the contract to be completed in. So that'll put us, if he gets started with construction, in August pretty heavily, then they should be finished early spring next year.
That's great. Good. Thank
And,
you.
and this goes along with the plan to try to get all the 5th graders moved back, which is set to take place in fall of 2022. So this one will be done ahead of schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Trivett. I know the school system, the school board thinks highly of the work that you do. In fact, I heard someone introduce you as their employee.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I like to give them that much effort that they feel that
We know you
way.
go to their meetings all the time, so thank
Yep.
you for representing the city so well.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the
Is there a motion
opportunity.
to accept the consent agenda with the alteration to it?
So moved.
Second.
So we'll be pulling that item
6.1.1.
Very good. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
This takes us to ordinances for consideration on second reading. First ordinance being 4747-20. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by changing from I-1 Light Industrial District to B3 Supporting Central Business District, certain property located at 125 Lynn Road. Ready for your consideration on second reading.
Let me just ask one question before we turn it over to you, Dasan. We don't have to have public hearing on this?
We will have to have public hearing. I'm assuming y'all didn't get it publicized in time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll do it on third reading?
Do it on third reading. Yes, ma'am.
Very
It's
good.
been publicized for the third reading.
Dasan?
Thanks, Hassan.
Welcome, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, before you is this request to rezone a piece of property on Lynn Road from I-1 Light Industrial to B3 Supporting Central Business District. The applicant intends to construct 5 single-family residential units on this side. It's currently zoned for industrial use, but Lynn Road is a very small road. It cannot accommodate industrial traffic. It's more suitable for residential development that is akin to the adjoining multi-family development south of the property itself. This is a concept plan that is provided for the development. A concept plan is not required for this rezoning per the zoning ordinance, but he provided is just to kind of show what he intends to do. The Planning Commission at its meeting on June 9 unanimously recommended approval because this will align more with the character of the area, and Lynn Road, it's not really suitable for industrial traffic.
All right, any questions of staff? Is there a motion to,
Move approval.
Second.
motion and a second? Okay, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Your next ordinance for consideration is ordinance 4748-20, an ordinance to abandon a public right-of-way between 1408 Virginia Street and 1412 Virginia Street upon the terms and conditions contained herein, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, is ready for your consideration on second reading. Song?
Dasan?
Mayor Commissioners, this is a request to abandon this 3rd Street. It's a paper street. There's really no construction. The right-of-way is not constructed for public transport. Nobody uses it. The public does not use it. There are significant development challenges based on the topography of the site if the city were to open this for public use in future. The only use of the property to the city at this time is for water, 2 water lines. Public agencies, different departments of the cities have reviewed this, and they have no issues with abandonment of this right-of-way. The Water and Sewer Department requests that if we're going to abandon this, then an easement should be reserved 10 feet on each side of the 16-inch water line. So the easement will be 20 feet total, and 7.5 feet on the water sewer service line. So that will be 14 feet, 15 feet total on either side. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval.
Okay. Do we have a
Move
motion?
approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Thank you, Song.
Thank you, son.
Your next item for consideration is approval of the 2020 ESG program contract between the state of Tennessee Housing Development Agency and the city for the provision of services to the homeless and those at risk of homelessness under the ESG program. The grant amount is $161,250. This approval of this grant will allow us to receive those funds, and they will be used for the services to homeless and prevention of homelessness.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. I did have a quick question. How will these funds be distributed then?
Come on, Preston, if you know, I don't know that we have entered into contracts with the distribution of funds yet, but I'll let you answer that.
Not yet, but it would be presumably with the traditional agencies that we've worked with in the past. Mr. Freeman had mentioned that at your Monday night meeting, that there are agencies that we've worked with in the past that already have the procedures and processes in place in terms of how to file invoices, et cetera, and those are Frontier Health, Manna House, Salvation Army, organizations like that. So we already have, those have been previous recipients, and so it is presumed that those would continue.
And these are primarily for emergency services?
As well as for homeless assistance, for emergency and homeless assistance, right? Not only for shelter, but also for food and other types of assistance.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
We had one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, got out, there you go. Ms. Jennings. Thank
Commissioner
you.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next item for consideration is approval of contract amendments with First Tennessee Development District, Johnson City Housing Authority, and the Appalachian Service Project, requesting a time extension for the completion of rehab and reconstruction projects that were approved and awarded during the previous fiscal year. The work was to be completed by 24 July, and they have asked for an extension to 31 December of 2020.
I would think with everything going on, that's probably a reasonable request.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
To approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next order of business is approval of a CDBG CARES Act projects contracts to provide reimbursement for the provision of services to the low-income and homeless individuals adversely affected by COVID-19. The agreements are between the City of Johnson City and Second Harvest Food Bank of Northeast Tennessee in the amount of $100,000. Fairview Housing and Management doing business as the Manna House in the amount of $30,050. The Salvation Army of Johnson City in the amount of $116,238.35. And Frontier Health in the amount of $67,272. And again, these are monies that we have received as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and is to offset additional costs that these agencies have realized as a result of the pandemic. We would recommend your approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Any other comments, questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. I do want to comment that I know during this time, there's been a task force that has been very active, you know, working with the homeless and providing services from testing to isolation, you know, creating areas of isolation where they can go if need be. So I just want to commend our community nonprofits for how they've stepped up, and I think being able to distribute this money back to them is a good thing for us to restore their, you know, their coffers as well a little bit on the services that they provide. So,
And reflect real efforts to seek solutions to homelessness that shouldn't go unnoticed.
right. Very good, thank you. All right.
And next order of business is public input.
Well, do we have anyone in the chambers who would like to address the commission?
Charlie?
Do you have anything?
Mr.
Please,
Floyd or
invite
Mr. Stahl? We have two in here. Seeing none, we'll close the public inputs.
The next thing is the manager's report. As everyone's aware, we closed out the fiscal year June 30, and the Typically, the auditors come in and do some pre-audit work during the late spring, and due to the COVID-19 situation, they haven't been able to come in. So finance is kind of in a condensed timeline with the same amount of work to get accomplished. And so we've closed out the year end, and everybody's, I assume everybody got their invoices from the last fiscal year into Janet yesterday, and we're in the process of closing out the books. Janet, anything you'd like to add in terms of what you folks are dealing with right now?
Pray for us. And we are, Pete's right, we are in a condensed time frame due to everything. So everybody's working diligently, and we will hopefully get closed out by our state deadline of August 29th. We have 60 days. A lot of work to do.
We appreciate you folks.
Thank you.
Really do. It's, to be responsible for the proper receipting and disbursement of $250 million is really a pretty monumental task, and that's what the finance department does. I often kid Debbie Dillon that she spends more money than any woman I know down in purchasing.
I will say one thing if I could. It might be worthy to note that during all of this, how we've managed to operate and how management has supported us has really been great, and it's worked very well. We've kept all 19 of us here working the entire time. We are fortunate to have offices where we can have closed doors, and we're a pretty secure area, so thankful to management and everybody who over the years saw fit to provide us with offices. When I first came to the city in 2001, Pete remembers, it was mostly cubicle city down there. We would not have been able to have operated in a somewhat normal fashion had we still been under those circumstances. But we've been here. We've got a couple of ladies working at Gray. That's worked out fabulous. So anyway, we're being as normal as possible, and actually it's been fairly normal.
And remember, there were several that tried to talk us out of the hard wall offices.
Yes. Well,
Sounds pretty good now.
little did they know.
Sounds really good now, doesn't it?
Yes.
Do we
yes.
know May numbers yet? Are we close to getting those back?
I honestly didn't stop and look. They should be in, and if they're not already in, they should be in soon.
About
very
any
soon.
day this week, yeah.
We'll go ahead and get those numbers out. I'll get them to Pete as soon as I look them up.
Are we hopeful?
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Okay.
Good,
That's good. Glad to hear.
I'm more than hopeful.
Okay.
compared to what we thought.
I'm
we were gonna
confident.
be.
I mean, March and
Compared to what
April
we
were better than
projected,
expected.
You're confident we will get May numbers?
Yes.
I'm confident it's going to put a smile on your face. When we put FY20 projections together in March, those projections included a 50% decrease in sales taxes for April, May, and June. We have the April numbers, and they were off 22%. And I think everyone up here would agree, you saw a whole lot more activity in our community in May than you saw in April. So I will be in shock if May isn't better than April. I don't want to forecast, but we had originally projected we may have to go to fund balance for as much as $5 million to close out FY20. We're not going to go to fund balance for $5 million. We're going to have to go to fund balance for something, but I don't think it's going to be $5 million that we originally projected. Now, that's the great news. Now, here's the cautious news. If we don't act as a smart, responsible society in Washington County and Johnson City and wear masks and stay clean, our revenues are going to go in the tank because we're going to have hundreds of sick people and businesses that can't open for various reasons. And this is not the time to get complacent because we're in a good spot. We have made tremendous personal, professional, and organizational sacrifices in order to be in such a good position with our economy and with our local finances. And this is not the time to throw it all away by becoming complacent and ignoring good common sense and practicing good health practices. So at the risk of sounding like your mother or your third grade teacher, it's time to be smart, folks. We've come a long way. Let's don't goof it off now. We've got to stay diligent with this thing. So I'll quit fussing now, but wear those masks and wash your hands, please. Socially distance. I guess the other news on finance, we have been, we took advantage of the time period where City Hall was closed to begin some renovations in finance. We've just about completed enclosure of the teller line and have put partitions between the employees and whatnot. So it's going to look a little different down in finance when we get a chance to get all that work completed, but that will complete safety and health measures to ensure that the general public stays safe when they come and do business with us, and that our employees stay safe as well. So glad to get that finished. In your packet is the monthly report on construction projects. As you'll see, there's quite a few of them that are completing, getting very near completion. We talked about the Southside School project getting started. The architects are beyond 50% drawings on the Woodland and Lake Ridge school expansions. Looks like Lake Ridge is moving a little faster than Woodland at this point. So as those projects are ready to bid, we'll be taking those to the market. From what we saw with the Southside bids and what we have seen from some recent water sewer bids, the bid climate is much more favorable than it was 6-8 months ago. Pricing is much more in our favor. So we're very hopeful that we can see some economies by bidding those projects this fall. Excuse me. Both of those projects will be a longer construction period than the Southside project. So it is going to be important to get those started sometime this fall in order to ensure that they're ready for occupancy in the fall of '22 when the school system was to transition to the 2 middle schools. Work on the Liberty Bell Gym is nearing completion. Their project timeline is to be completed by the end of the month. I don't think they're going to be totally completed by the end of the month, but they have made huge strides. I was sharing with Commissioner Hunter a minute ago a picture of the new gym. I'll be glad to show it to you when we adjourn here in a minute. Gym's about done. I think they've got the bleachers to put in. They're setting toilet fixtures. They're doing a lot of work in the cafeteria and the kitchen area right now. They've poured concrete aprons and driveways and installing handrails on the exterior. I mean, it looks really nice. It's shaping up. I think it's going to be something that will be extremely beneficial to the students and the faculty at Liberty Bell, and something that the whole community can be extremely proud of. It's going to be a major improvement up there.
We plan a tour soon.
We can. We certainly can. The gym floor is still in a drying period. I think Randy said we could probably go up there one day next week. So if you would like, we can schedule a tour one day and go up and go through.
I was going to suggest, because there's another stop I would really encourage us to make, but maybe our next meeting on Thursday, maybe 3 o'clock or something like that, and we could go up there and look at that. But I'd love for everybody to go over to Pine Oaks, to the golf course.
Sure.
You know, we had set aside 2 years ago some money for investment over there. Well, those improvements have been made, and it's made a huge difference. The practice range is now, I mean, I think it's one of the best around, and people are buying balls, and new people are coming because it's very convenient, and it's a fully functioning range. I just love everybody to see it, and the activity at the golf course has been amazing. From the time this COVID thing started to to now, and they have a lot of new players who are coming who think the golf course is in amazing shape. So we can be really proud. We're not.
You know, there are a lot of great things that have happened during this period of adversity. You know, the golf course certainly being one of them, and we have a lot to be proud of. We don't need to stay focused on the challenges before us. We need to take pride in the accomplishments we've made and the opportunities we've got to better the lives of those we work for. So I'd be glad to answer any questions or take any direction you may have for myself or the staff.
Any questions, Mr. Peterson? Okay.
I have one. A little over a year and a half ago, the commission was asked to adopt the 2018 International Building Codes, I think just to kind of keep us in the right sequence. I think we're on the 2012 or 13, I don't.
12, I believe is right.
And so
yes.
the window was closing on how much longer we could stay on that. It's been a year and a half, and we haven't heard anything more about it. I think we were waiting on the state, but where do things stand now with respect to us updating which building code we're operating under?
Okay. The state has not adopted the code yet, so we're still in compliance. We have to be within, I think, 7 years of what the state has adopted, so we're in good shape there. I'll be honest, that's something I haven't checked on in 2 or 3 months, but I had Dave McClellan.
Why? I mean, you know, what have you
You know,
been doing?
been on vacation, haven't been here, just, you know, playing golf and traveling the world. No, I had Dave McClellan checking to make sure that as many localities up here as we could would adopt the exact same code. And I know Bristol and Kingsport have acted and adopted codes. So let me go back and get my notes out because we were working towards making sure we adopted the same code as everybody else with the same amendments. And that way it's seamless as to where you are as to what the code is.
Thank you. And I guess related to that, efforts, it would be, I think, good to hear an update on that and then an update from Development Services on perhaps system improvements and stakeholder quality measures so that we can, I mean, I think we do a good job as a city with our citizen survey and our employee survey, and that really does guide policy. And I think it would be helpful for us with respect to how we interact with the building and developing community that we come up with a way to be similarly attuned.
Yes, sir. I just got from Preston this afternoon, along those lines, the second quarter numbers for what the activity. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but he did give me a quick verbal update that we surpassed first quarter numbers, and first quarter numbers were pretty good. Round numbers, we've probably got over 200 new subdivision lots in process right now, which we haven't seen that in a while. You hear varying stories from different realtors depending on who you talk to. Just, I know from experience in my neighborhood, there have been 5 houses that have sold since April, 3 of which sold before the realtor could put the sign in their yard. At least one of the other 2, I was told, sold for $20,000 more than the asking price. So I say that I think the inventory is pretty short right now. It's definitely a seller's market, and that's what's driving the need for new subdivision lots and the new housing starts. We're seeing quite a bit of activity as far as the development arena goes. So I will look at that and forward that information to you tomorrow.
I think the commercial space is the one that's,
I had a conversation with a commercial realtor today, And she told me that she had, I think, 5 under contract that were getting ready to close, and that she was leasing stuff as on a really good pace right now, which is contrary to what I expected.
I sent out that NETAR report last week, and certainly things were down somewhat,
Right.
maybe not in this area as much as others.
And the spaces that they were really talking about in that report you sent out were retail spaces. And I don't think this person is really doing a lot of retail spaces. They're doing more professional office and smaller retail spaces. But yeah, the big retail spaces are really slow nationally. It's going to take a while for retail to come back in the form that it was. You know, when we look at our sales tax collections, retail's not really all that terrible, but you've seen this huge shift to online purchasing, and we're now collecting the sales tax on online purchases. That's made a huge difference in the economy of the whole state. And in my opinion, I think it's been a lifesaver that has gotten us through this COVID epidemic, because without the collection of that online sales taxes, state economy would have been crippled. It's really been a lifesaver, and you know, I think that's one of the things that we need to certainly take into consideration and probably plan for, is that the source of our sales taxes may not be the traditional brick and mortar going forward. Majority of it may be the collection of online sales. So it's a dynamic environment with all that's going on this year.
The word traditional may become obsolete.
I'm beginning to think traditional is hourly change.
Pete, just one other thing, because we were at the point where anybody had other questions for you. Could we get an update, or you may know something right now, on the stream banking out at Buffalo Valley?
Sure. Phil and I talked about that yesterday, as a matter of fact. The plans are complete, and they've got some reviews and permits that have to be obtained. So that's kind of the phase that they're into right now.
Is it all approved now, though?
That's what they're working on, is pulling the permits. So once permits are pulled, Phil's got time scheduled over the winter to do the construction. So that's coming to fruition this year.
And related to that, you can't sell the credits until the plan has been built out, is that right? So Phil has
That's
to do,
correct.
Phil does
You
the work all
cannot
winter.
pre-sell the credits.
So a year from now, we'll be able to sell 1/5 of whatever credits we had.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Hopefully next summer. That's not going to be, but I'm going to guess 3 to 5 month construction window. It's going to be some grading and a whole lot of planning of materials.
But you can't sell more than 20% of your credits in a given year.
Correct,
So
sir.
so it would basically be calendar year 21 through 26, we would see a little bit of income coming off of that.
Yes, sir. And for what the credits are selling for, it will be a whole lot more money than what you could probably sell the real property for. The credits are very valuable.
Refresh my memory, the proceeds from those transactions, will they go back into the general fund, or do they, with this program, do they have to go towards certain?
Well, golf pays for golf, so first it will.
Well, golf doesn't exist anymore.
I'm just kidding.
No, and I mean, it's a great question followed up by a good comment. When we moved golf out of an enterprise fund into Parks and Recreation, the general fund took a big write-off, which was
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million that the general fund had to take out of reserves to cover that write-off, to cover the golf. So I would suggest to you, when those credits are sold, that money be put back into fund balance to replenish what we had to take out when we covered the delinquencies. or
Which is
not the
consistent with what the bonding agencies are telling us, our fund balance needs to be higher.
Yes, sir.
So,
Do you want to go ahead and make that motion?
I don't think we should take that up tonight. It's not on the agenda.
So just one request, when Phil is getting close to being present, I think he should have a community meeting out there to show what the work's gonna be, what's
Sure.
gonna look like, and
Absolutely.
very, very important, or we'll.
Where the kudzu's gonna get planted. and-
Well, I mean, the big change people are gonna see, the ponds are gonna go away. And at least 50 feet either side of the center line of the creek is gonna be restored to a natural state. So you're gonna see your natural vegetation along both sides of the stream. There'll probably be places that they will place some larger stones in the creek to create some riparian areas. And, the whole concept behind that is to restore it to its natural state so that it will sustain natural vegetation and wildlife in the creek.
One final thing, I did ride through Buffalo Valley a couple of weeks ago. We still have those sheds out there and that, the Texas Instruments modular home. What are we gonna do with that stuff? It looks kind of bad out there now.
Charlie and I talked about that the other day. We're getting ready to put that Texas Instrument clubhouse on Gov Deals and see if there's anybody interested in purchasing that building. And if so, we will sell it, and if not, we'll remove it. And the same thing with sheds. Does that meet you're all okay with that? Can I get a bid down there, Commissioner Calhoun?
I drove through the other day also.
Yes,
it needs to go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a lot of weeds out there. I've gotten a couple of complaints from residents out there that where the fairways used to be looked nice. They mow that, but there's just a lot of weed eating to do. We kind of lost our weed eaters, didn't we? The inmates who.
We're down about 60 FTEs in maintenance right now due to the fact of the COVID virus, and some of our normal help is isolated and unavailable.
Just put some goats out there. That's a good idea. Yeah.
I have suggested that for 15 years, honest to goodness. There's no need to weed eat at a golf course. Turn the goats loose on the banks.
They got some goats up on Sam's Gap, don't they?
You know,
No comment.
the Bright Ridge Solar Farm down in Telford, they bring sheep in, and they just graze under the solar arrays, so it gets mowed.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay, Commissioners, anything on any of the work you're doing you want to report out?
Planning Commission was moved, or actually, it was canceled, then another meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. We had some issues around a quorum, so our meeting will be the 21st.
Good. Commissioner Fowler?
No.
Okay. I laid this in front of your workplaces here. This is our outline for our strategic plan that we're trying to get completed. If y'all could take the next week, and if there are any other edits, after our conversation this morning with CVB, it kind of dawned on me, we hadn't kind of incorporated some of the goals that we were looking at there, and so the red is some of my edits. Take a look at those. You can strike them out, or you can, kind of get back. But if there's anything else you see you want to do to strengthen this, and we'll take a week to do it, get it back to Keisha if you would, and copy Pete on it, and then we're going to turn it, then we'll all kind of need to look at it, I guess, and then turn it over to Bridge, and they're going to do the build out of the plan for us. Okay, anything else? All right, if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned.